Ever feel like you're just adrift, in the sea of to-do lists and like all those self-help things you see online, and you're just kind of wishing for something more, well, focused to help you actually reach your goals?
Yeah, totally.
Well, today we're diving into something that might just be the answer. We're checking out Sfatika.cloud.
Okay, so it's not just another productivity app, right?
Right.
It's more like, how do I describe it? It's like a structured spiritual journal, but it's also a strategic life planner. And it's
Interesting.
all inspired by ancient wisdom, which is really cool.
I like how they weave in that whole idea of the Swatika
Oh,
Manani.
yeah.
It's that mythical gem from the Mahabharata,
Yeah.
known for storing information with like incredible clarity.
Right.
Except in this case, it's your own story you're storing for like
Sure.
self-reflection and growth and all that.
Exactly. And they use this really clever nautical theme throughout the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
So imagine yourself as the captain of a ship.
Okay.
But instead of just sailing the ocean, the high seas, you're actually navigating the Samsara Sagara. That's what they call it.
The what?
Samsara Sagara,
Okay.
which is basically like the ocean of existence.
Okay, I'm hooked already. So tell me, how does this whole nautical metaphor actually play out in the app itself?
All right, so it all starts with these things called logs.
Logs.
Logs, just like, those old maritime logs that captains used to keep to record, like all the important stuff from their voyages, all the big events, observations.
I'm with you.
But in Sfatika, cloud, you're logging, like the key experiences in your life, those big reflections, milestones, that kind of thing. It's like your own personal journey.
So it's like you're creating this record of your own growth, kind
Yeah,
of.
exactly. Like a highlight reel, but with, more depth.
Way more depth.
Yeah. And this is where it gets kind of cool, and this is where the psychology comes in.
Okay.
So once you're, like, happy with a log entry, right, you commit it.
You committed.
You commit it. It's like you're saying this matters. Like you're permanently etching this moment, this learning onto, like, the map of your life.
Oh, wow. I can see how that would make you really think about what you're choosing to put in your log. No pressure to make every coffee run sound super profound.
Right, exactly. It makes you more intentional.
Yeah.
And to give you a little extra, encouragement, they have these things called neurogens. Neurodens.
Okay.
And you earn them with each committed log, like little rewards.
Okay.
Think of it as like a gamified pat on the back for being self-aware.
Okay. Well, I'll admit I do like a good reward system.
Right.
So we've got these logs that are like charting our growth, but how does Fatika Cloud actually help us, set sail and achieve something? How do we get from just like writing stuff down to actually making progress?
That's where the voyages come in.
Voyages.
Think of these as like these grand expeditions
Yeah.
representing all these different paths in your life.
Mm.
Some of them are past journeys, things you've already done. Some are happening right now, and others. Those are all those big future aspirations.
So I'm picturing like a treasure map of my life with all these voyages to all these amazing places. I like it. But how do I actually go about planning one of these voyages? Like, where do I even start?
Good question. So each voyage is broken down into 4 main sections: pursuit, evaluation, results, and environment.
Yeah.
Like a holistic framework.
Okay.
You can approach any big project or goal with it.
So it's like you're outfitting your ship for this big journey, right?
Exactly.
You're making sure you've got all the right gear, you've got a plan to deal with those rough seas, right?
Yeah. And the pursuit section, that's where you take control.
Okay.
You're setting your course. This is where you lay out your plan, define your goals. You even try to like forecast those potential challenges you might run into.
So it's about being proactive instead of just letting yourself be tossed around by the waves.
Exactly. You're shaping your journey. You're not just drifting along, hoping for the best.
Okay, I can definitely get behind that. So let's talk goals for a sec. We all have them.
We do.
But sometimes it feels like they're just scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
How does Fatika Cloud help us wrangle all of those goals into something, manageable, something we can actually work with?
Well, it encourages you to really think about your goals
Okay.
and align them with these 4 classical pursuits. They're called Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha.
Okay, hold on. Before we go any further, and I hate to interrupt, but I think some of our listeners might not be familiar with those terms. Could you break those down for us?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dharma is all about like righteousness.
Okay.
It's about fulfilling your duties,
Okay.
like living in alignment with like your values and your purpose.
Dharma's a big one.
It is a big one.
Okay.
Artha, on the other hand, is focused on like material prosperity,
Okay.
security,
Yeah.
achieving your financial and material goals.
Okay, that makes sense. So Dharma is like the why behind your actions, and Artha is more of the practical what you're trying to get done.
You got it. You got it. Now, comma encompasses desires and fulfillment.
Okay.
This includes things like love, creativity, pleasure, the things that bring you joy and satisfaction.
So it's about making sure you're not just living a life that like looks good on paper, but it actually feels good too.
Exactly. Exactly. And then finally, there's moksha.
Okay.
And that's the pursuit of liberation or freedom, both internal and external.
Okay, so I'm guessing that one's a little deeper than just booking a one-way ticket to like a tropical island.
Yes, definitely. It's about freeing yourself from limiting beliefs, from attachments, and ultimately, achieving inner peace, that sense of fulfillment.
So we've got these four pursuits. We've got Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, and Svatika. Cloud wants us to look at how our goals fit into these categories. How does that work in practice? Let's say, for example, my goal is to write a novel. Which one of these pursuits would that fall under?
That's a good question. And that's the thing. It could be a few of them. Maybe it's Dharma, right? Like you're fulfilling your purpose to create. Or maybe it's Artha, right? You want to achieve financial success as an author. It could even be Kama because you're pursuing the joy and fulfillment of like expressing yourself creatively.
So it's not about forcing your goal into just one category. It's more about understanding those deeper motivations behind it.
Exactly. And Satika,
Yeah.
Cloud really helps you do this by prompting you, to really think about how your goal fits in with these pursuits.
So it's like it's helping you define not just what you want, but also why it's important to you, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. But let's say I've got my goal all figured out. What's next? Does Fatika Cloud just leave me to figure out the how all on my own?
Not at all. That's where the other parts of the pursuit section come in. Tasks and forecasting.
All right, so tasks. That seems pretty self-explanatory, right? Make a list, check things off as you go. But I'm guessing with Fatika Cloud, there's a little more to it than that.
Oh, you know it. It's
We're-
not just your average to-do list.
Okay, good.
Satika. Cloud, it takes those big, ambitious goals we were talking about
Mm-hmm.
and helps you break them down into those, like, smaller steps, the ones you can actually, get your head around.
Yeah.
It's like plotting a course on a map.
Yeah.
You got to figure out those smaller routes, those milestones, to get you to that final destination.
So instead of just having this big goal like write a novel, it would be more like, okay, today I'm going to write 500 words, or I'm going to research literary agents, those smaller steps that feel a little less intimidating.
Exactly. That's the key. Sometimes those big goals, they can be paralyzing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Svatika,
Yeah.
Cloud, it helps you stay motivated by focusing on those smaller wins along the way.
Okay, I am all about those smaller wins. But let's talk about this forecasting thing for a minute. Does Fatika Cloud have like a crystal ball hidden somewhere in its code? Can it tell me the future?
If only. Wouldn't that be nice? No crystal ball, unfortunately. But this forecasting thing, it's all about looking ahead. It's about thinking about, those potential storms or
Okay.
even, those nice favorable winds, the things that might pop up on your journey.
So it's like checking the weather
Hmm.
forecast before you head out on a trip, making sure you're prepared for whatever Mother Nature might decide to throw at you.
Yes, exactly. Precisely. So, for example, right, are there any big deadlines coming up that might mess with your writing schedule? Or are there any conferences or workshops you could go to that might give you some, valuable insight? Svatika.cloud, it helps you figure out all these things and actually plan for them.
Yeah, because let's be real, life very rarely goes exactly according to plan, right? There are always going to be those unexpected things that pop up.
Always, always. And that's why, Svatika.cloud, it doesn't just focus on those external factors. It also wants you to think about your internal fuel levels.
Fuel levels. Okay, so we're not just talking about making sure my coffee cup is full.
Right. Although, that's never a bad idea.
Never a bad idea.
This is about taking a look at what keeps you going, like physically, mentally, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
It's Fatika.cloud. It'll prompt you to think about things like how much sleep are you getting? Are you feeling super stressed? Are you like actually still passionate about this goal you set for yourself? All those things.
So it's like checking your ship's engine before you set sail, making sure you've got enough fuel in the tank to actually make it to your destination.
Yes, 100%. Because, sometimes we get so caught up in the excitement of like starting this new thing, that we forget to actually check in with ourselves, make sure we have what we need to keep going.
Oh, I've totally been there. Starting something new, all excited, gung-ho, and then a couple of weeks later, I just hit a wall.
Exactly.
And that initial excitement is totally gone.
Exactly, exactly. And that's where this whole fuel thing comes in. Fatigue, the Satika cloud. Might ask you, like, hey, are you getting enough sleep? Or do you feel like you're constantly overwhelmed with everything? Or even just, are you still connected to that initial why behind your goal? And these are all things that are really important.
Yeah.
They can totally impact how motivated you are
Yeah.
and whether you can actually, stay the course and get to where you want to go.
Yeah. It's like they say, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? You got to take care of yourself if you want to achieve those big goals. I love that. So we've got our logs, we've got our voyages with all the planning and the forecasting and everything. But I'm guessing it doesn't always go smoothly, right? What happens when we hit those inevitable rough patches?
Well, that's where the evaluation section comes in.
Hmm.
Remember how we were talking about logs being like these little milestones on your journey?
Yeah.
Well, evaluation is where you take a step back. You zoom out
Okay.
and you look at all those logs together and you try to figure out like what you've learned from all those experiences. We call those the learnings.
So it's not just about like documenting what happened, it's about actually understanding what it all means.
Yes, exactly. And Svatika cloud, they even call these learnings the scar tissue of experience.
Scar tissue.
Scar tissue.
Interesting.
And, just like scar tissue can make you stronger, more resilient, the app wants you to look at those past experiences, even the negative ones, as opportunities to grow.
It's like that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly.
But with Svatika Cloud, you're actually taking the time to figure out what you can learn from those experiences so you do actually get stronger.
I love that. And it's not about like dwelling on your mistakes, right? It's
Yeah.
just about recognizing that every experience, even the hard ones, can teach you something valuable about yourself, about the world, about, whatever it is you're working towards.
So it's about turning those past, quote unquote failures into wisdom for future voyages, right?
Exactly. And Svatika, Cloud gives you this framework, a way to really analyze those experiences and use them to make better decisions in the future. It's
And
pretty cool. It's about turning those past battles into, wisdom for your next big adventure.
okay, yeah, that's really resonating with me. I think personally I've learned way more from my setbacks than I ever have from my successes.
Right.
But sometimes those rough seas, they can bring about some pretty unexpected results, both good and bad.
That is true. That is very true.
And that's where I'm guessing the results section comes in.
Yeah.
And it's not just about like checking things off our to-do list, right? It's about taking the time to think about the outcomes, whether we plan for them or not. So how does Fatika Cloud handle that whole idea of, success and dare I say it, failure?
That's such a good question. And honestly, I think Svatika Cloud has a really cool perspective on this. Like, it moves away from that whole, did you succeed or did you fail? That kind of black and white thinking.
Right.
And instead, it encourages you to look at the results, all the outcomes, as just part of this like ongoing journey.
So it's less about putting these labels on yourself,
Yeah.
judging yourself, and more about just trying to understand what happened.
100%. It's
Oh.
not about beating yourself up because you didn't like perfectly achieve some arbitrary milestone. It's about saying, okay, what happened? What worked? What didn't work? And most importantly, what can I learn from all of this?
Yeah.
And that goes for, any outcome, good or bad.
So even those voyages that, maybe we didn't reach our intended destination, those ones we might label as failures, they can still be valuable.
Absolutely. Sometimes those detours, those times you get a little lost, those are the times that lead to the most amazing discoveries.
Yeah.
And Svatika Cloud helps you do that. It helps you mine those experiences for like those nuggets of wisdom that you can use to make better decisions in the future.
Yeah. It's like they say sometimes you got to get lost to truly find yourself, right?
Right.
But in this case, Fatika, cloud is like that compass that helps you make sense of it all and helps you get back on track, learn from it. Speaking of getting back on track, we haven't really talked about that last section of a voyage, the environment. So I'm guessing this is where all those external factors, those, curveballs that life throws at us, this is where they come in, right?
Exactly. The environment section is all about like acknowledging that there are things outside of our control that can totally impact our journey
Because even with the best planning in the world, sometimes things just happen, right?
all the time. 100%. And we can't control the weather. We can't like predict every single obstacle we're going to face. But what we can control is how we respond.
Okay, yeah, I like that. So it's less about avoiding the storm altogether,
Yeah.
more about, learning how to navigate it.
Exactly. And Sfatika
Yeah.
cloud, it wants you to not just like survive the storm, but to actually reflect on what happened, like what did you learn from that experience? How did you adapt? Did it make you realize that you had some like hidden strengths you didn't even know about?
It's like turning those what ifs and those if onlys into, okay, well, what now? What's next? Yes. Yes, exactly. It's so powerful to look at it that way.
It is, and it really speaks to this idea that Sfatika Cloud isn't just a goal-setting app. It's like it's a tool for really understanding yourself better. It's a way to like navigate this crazy thing we call life. It's a good reminder that sometimes the journey is just as important as the destination.
So well said. It's like they've taken this ancient idea of the Sphatika Marni, right? This crystal that can store so much information with perfect clarity, and they've created a tool to help us achieve that same kind of clarity in our own lives.
I love that analogy. Okay, so we've reached the end of our deep dive into Sfatika.cloud. What's like the one big takeaway you'd want our listeners to walk away with today? I think the biggest thing is just to remember that personal growth, really achieving those dreams, living a life that feels like truly fulfilling, it's not about following some like rigid formula.
Yeah.
It's not about chasing after someone else's definition of success. It's about like really leaning into the whole experience, even the messy parts. It's about being open to learning those lessons, big or small, along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Sphatika cloud. It gives you the map, it gives you the compass, it even helps you pack your bags with all the important stuff. But at the end of the day, you're the one who gets to decide where you want to go. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. Think about your own fuel, those things that keep you going, that light your fire. How are those doing? Do they need a little TLC? Remember, taking care of yourself, that's the first step to achieving anything you set your mind to.